Hello girlies, welcome to our training about our glute medius, our glute max and our underbutt. This is the only breakdown you will ever need. Let's start with the anatomy of our glutes for a second. So we've got our glute medius over here, we've got our glute maximus, and then underneath those two muscles there, we've got the glute minimus, piriformis, and a couple of other ones that you just don't really see. Now the peachy one is the glute maximus. That is literally like the biggest glute muscle there, and that's the one that we kind of want to be able to grow with a certain few exercises I'm about to show you. Now let's start with the glute medius, because this is the one that creates the glute shelf on top. It's literally at the side, or I guess like above the glute maximus. This one gives side shape, also hip width as well, and can create a bit of a pop, or at least the shelf if you're standing side on with your glutes. But what it is functionally for is the rotator, and it's also great so that you don't get back pain. It's crazy because women actually used to miss this one in their training, but these days it's probably overdone compared to the glute maximus because a lot of girls don't actually feel confident on machines. So I'm going to show you exactly what machines to use today and what kind of equipment to go with the exercises that you're supposed to be doing to have a well-rounded glute or lower body day, to create a balanced physique, which you do need to be able to have more power to actually even lift glute exercises. You still need to build the legs, you still need to build the back, especially if you want to look strong and toned and burn body fat at the same time. I think that in the beginning of my training, I was like, oh, I just need to do glute days. So I would have 3 dedicated only glute days where I only did glute exercises, and it just didn't get me anywhere. I actually didn't end up with the physique that I wanted because I didn't know how much recovery time I would actually need. So I was overtraining them and my body just wasn't really changing. So this is just one part of the big picture. The training program I break down for my clients, you can find at www.sheknowsfitness.org, because you'll have a well-rounded sculpted body there. Back, chest, legs, glutes, coupled with the right nutrition to be able to get to where you want to be. If you're only training one part of the body, being your glutes, technically you're only working 1/8 of the amount that you should be working in your entire program. Anyway, the internet can be a place where there's so much information online, so I just break it down super easy. Now let's start with the glute shelf. Remember, it can't get too big anyway. The muscle is quite small, but you build it in proportion to your frame. So even if you push the absolute crap out of this exercise or this muscle, there's no way you could get like super bulky with any exercise anyway, because it's just unrealistic. We as women really have low testosterone levels anyway, so there's no way we can biologically, naturally get bulky. Now you can do hip abductions, you can do your hip abduction machine, obviously. Both of those are very similar. They are pretty much the exact same thing, except one is single-sided, because if you don't have a machine, then you can use a single leg cable with just like a handle around your ankle. You can use an incline cable kickback. Not every gym has this one. I actually found this one at just like one type of gym that had a lot of machines. It's not actually necessary, but you can also achieve that movement through a cable kickback. That would probably be a better option. A hyperextension, which you can do over a Smith machine bar if you don't have a hyperextension machine as well. And you can use a standing variation with a kickback. These 4 are going to give you absolutely a juicy glute shelf. The glute shelf is a really good supporting muscle for big exercises too. So even if you're doing a Romanian deadlift, you're still going to be building that little muscle because it's a hip stabilizer, which means that it actually has to help out. Otherwise, the hips aren't going to be able to lift that weight back up or even have enough power. So it just kind of like helps the big muscles that are going to be working with it. Now, where most women go wrong is just having these sole exercises for a glute workout. Like, that's just not how it works. You're missing a lot of glute exercises in your program. These are the ones that I throw in after the big exercises, and I don't do them all in one day or even in the same block. You should just be picking one of these and using them alongside the other ones. So let's get into the juicy bits. I'm going to show you what to do for the glute max. This is the part of the glutes where you'll see the most size from. First exercise you want is a hack squat. Hack squats are fantastic, and you're probably thinking, oh, but there's quads involved in these. Yes, there is. But to grow glutes, you've got to also grow quads. And don't worry about them being overdeveloped, because during this exercise, a lot of mind to muscle connection kicks in. You're going to be able to ultimately focus most of your attention on the glutes anyway and force the knees outwards, which projects a lot of energy through the glutes rather than solely just on the quads. Second one is, of course, your hip thrust. Now, this targets your glute maximus, your hamstrings as well, which is why you've got to put your feet slightly away from you so that you can squeeze up through the hamstrings, because this is ultimately also going to target a little bit of that lower glute area to be able to create a really nice, developed, strong hamstring and glute tie-in. Next one is a deadlift variety, whether it be a Romanian deadlift or a traditional deadlift. I personally love a good Romanian deadlift for most of my workouts, if I'm honest, just because I do find that even though they do require a lot of energy output, I can target the glutes a little bit better with a Romanian deadlift rather than a traditional conventional deadlift, where I'm also activating a lot of lats, a lot of quads to be able to push through the floor. Personal choice. Last one is a V squat. I love this one. Just like a hack squat, you are using a lot of glutes, plus you also recruit the quads to be able to project a lot of pressure through the glutes. So don't be mistaken, once again, only building the quads here, you also have to get a lot of glutes in this movement. Now, with most pressing movements, including a leg press, you have to also push the knees outwards. Now let's go on to our underbutt area. Now this is not a separate muscle, it's simply just the bottom glute hamstring tie-in, because you're going to need strong hamstrings if you want to build strong perky glutes. Now we've got the hyperextensions. Once again, definitely hack squat, because it stretches the quads, it stretches the hamstrings a lot. As the exercise comes down, glutes have to actually stretch its way around your hips. So literally that muscle has stretched out really quite a lot. Now, when you force the pressure through that muscle on the way back up, you're forcing it to grow. Next one is everyone's probably most hated exercise. We've got Bulgarian split squats. They are superb for building this area. If you don't love them and you absolutely will not do them at all, I don't blame you, but to be fair, they are very, very effective. You can get away with not doing them. I don't have this on here, but I'm just going to add it in. Reverse lunges really target the glutes because the momentum of this particular lunge is not forward. So you're actually taking a lot of pressure away from the quads to be able to target ultimately the glutes. Simply hold onto a pole or something steady next to you to be able to use a lot more mind to muscle connection, because you take away a little bit of the balance required to be able to lift the weight. Last one is a high stance leg press. Put your feet at the top of the leg press board because it's going to target the glutes a lot more. There's not as much quad flexion, which means that there's more pressure on the posterior chain instead. So to bring it all together, you've got the glute medius, which is going to be ultimately the shelf of the glutes. You've got the glute max, which builds the roundness and the projection, essentially of the shape of the glutes as well. And you've got the underbutt, which creates a bit more lift and separation down towards the hamstrings. Now, the reason we've split up these exercises is because there's something called the lengthened position and the shortened position. So the shortened one means that a exercise is more challenging at the top of the rep rather than the bottom of the rep. Like, for example, hip thrust would probably be the best way to describe this, where it feels more challenging at the top as you lift it back up. But on the other foot, the lengthened positions means something that's challenging at the bottom or in the most stretched position. For example, a Romanian deadlift. Make sure you hit subscribe if you learned something from this video. There's 2 videos going up a week, and they are going to help you ultimately shape and tone your body to be able to lose body fat on this channel, which I look forward to being able to help you along on that process. Head to the description, which has the ultimate training program in there. It is custom built for your body. Now, it does include a period tracker. Your blocks will be a certain amount of time each, and plus you'll be able to track in your habits for each day, be able to know how much water, how much food to have in a really easy way around your busy lifestyle. I'll see you on the next episode.